Welcome to QX Church. Good morning. I'm Pastor Scott Conway, and today we are blessed with the ending of another year and the coming of a new one. And so we have an opportunity, of course, to explore the idea that so often we do at this time of year of what can we do for the new year? The title of today's message is Things Have Become New. I'm Pastor Scott Conway at QX Church. We'll start with 2 Corinthians 5:17. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creature. The old things passed away. Behold, all things have become new. What Jesus offers us here is the ultimate do-over. Now, in the real world, of course, there are consequences for all that has come before, and rightly so. In fact, one of the reasons there has to be consequences for the things that have come before is so that we know that there are right actions and wrong actions, that there are righteous actions and evil actions, legal actions and illegal actions, and so that we know there are correct ways of doing things and incorrect ways of doing things. So if there was a earthly system by which you could mess up all you want and then poof, all of the consequences of messing up were gone, that would actually be really problematic for the character of human beings, because it would literally be a free-for-all. But on an eternal level, on a spiritual level, all those things do get wiped clean on a consistent and ongoing basis for the Christian. That if we will confess our sins, he is worthy and true to forgive us our sins. And the purpose for that is not so that we can pick ourselves up and jump back into the bad thing again, because it's totally okay now. It's so that we can pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and give it another try. But wherever we are, we are. Whatever we've done, we've done. But we get to start again. Now what's interesting is we do have a real-world metaphor, and that is decamillionaires, multimillionaires, the people who have millions and millions of dollars who built it up during their own lifetime. Those people most often succeed doing business. On the path there, the average number of prior bankruptcies for the multimillionaires who finally make it is 3.5. That means if you go right at that middle one, if you have 100 multimillionaires, the ones just below 50% probably had 4 bankruptcies. The one just above probably had 3. And so they mess up on their way to success. And so we're talking about not just in terms of being morally right and morally wrong. We're talking about in terms of being correct. The right actions as in the correct actions, combined with like the totality of the circumstances and how you interact with the totality of the circumstances to ultimately get a result in your life. That the people who are doing things like that still fail 3 or 4 times on their way to success. So what if the rule was, sorry, you only get one shot, you go bankrupt one time, that's it, game over, you don't get to play anymore. Go get a job and see if you can start making $15 an hour somewhere in there. That instead, they pick themselves up, they dust themselves off, they learn the lessons, and then they begin again. And after they've begun again a second time, and a third time, and a 4th time, somewhere in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th try is when they finally make it. Now, at the same time, every moment is our starting point from here forward. So right here, right now, at this particular moment, it is Sunday, December 30th, 2018. It is 9:50 in the morning. I can't do anything about what happened at 9:49. But I can decide from 9:51 on, it's going to be different. The past does not have to equal my future. Yesterday does not have to equal tomorrow. 2018 does not have to define 2019 for me. I can make a choice. Now, as we come up to the end of the year, as we prepare to crest from 2018 to 2019, which is significant for this message, a lot of times when I'm teaching on particular holidays. I don't specify the year that I'm recording this in. But the significance this year is that 1 year from now, I may not be celebrating New Year's here. That sometime in 2019, probably in the last half, maybe early 2020, I'm moving. I'm leaving. And I'll be leaving the San Diego area, and I'll be going either to the Las Vegas area or to the St. Louis area. And possibly some other places. There is a remote possibility I might even be staying here. But right now, those two look the most certain for what's coming up in my life. And so this might be my last New Year's message. Now I'm coming into the end of this year. I'm looking a little scruffy looking right now. Whether you can see it on the video, but you definitely can't see it on the audio. I haven't shaved for a few days, got a little bit of a beard going. I'm not actually growing a beard. As much as anything, this is a reminder I need to go get this haircut. This is about as long as I usually let it get. And I'll shave the same time I do that. And kind of what I'm actually doing is creating more of a contrast for myself, which I'm doing on purpose in kind of this sort of semi-symbolic way. So on New Year's Eve, I plan to get my hair cut, and I'm going to get clean shaven and basically prepare myself with this physical metaphor as a reminder to myself that I'm going into a new year. I'm going into a new year that will have some unknown adventures, that will have a exceptional level of pending chaos, just meaning that things are not the way things have been, and it's going to be different, and I don't know what kind of different. So every moment, our starting point from here is from here forward. Right here, right now, if I make a different choice right here, right now, than I've made in previous minutes, in previous hours, I can have a different outcome in coming minutes and coming hours. When we accept Christ, though, there's a moment there where that is the ultimate do-over, where we become a new creation. We become this new thing that has never existed before, as we get this new harmony between Jesus Christ and ourselves flowing through our hearts with the presence of the Holy Spirit in our lives. And it's this whole new deal, this deal that we didn't have before we accepted Christ. And we get to take the totality of our circumstances that we're in right now, and we get to move forward from here as a totally new person. Now, as powerful as that is at the moment of salvation, we have an opportunity to do that at any given moment we walk with Christ. When you go, yes, Jesus, I need a Savior. And when Jesus, when God says yes, as He always does, then we have the opportunity to move forward now as that new creation. But then likewise, at any given moment, as we submit ourselves to the Lordship of Jesus Christ in a new and different way than we did in the moment earlier, we also are having a new start from right here, right now. So if I realize that I'm walking things out and I am not doing it in love, I can pause, catch myself, and just say, Jesus, love, joy, peace. Let the Holy Spirit come through me. Let me grasp that slice of heaven and be a heaven bringer rather than a hell bringer. Let me show up in joy. As you realize you're not showing up in joy, or you realize that you're unsettled and you're not at peace. And at any given moment of any given day, when all these things are happening, you can go running to God, and He will let you start right here, right now. They're okay. Connect with me, fruit of the Spirit. Connect with Jesus Christ through the Holy Spirit and settle into your love, your joy, and your peace, which is what we call bliss. When you got all of that going at a high level, you got bliss. So every moment. Lamentations 3:21-23. This I recall to my mind, therefore I have hope. The Lord's loving kindness indeed never ceases, for His compassion never fails. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. New every morning. So this idea, now it's interesting when you look at kind of the structure of this. His loving kindness never ceases. His compassion never fails. But then we're told this odd thing that, well, if they never cease, if they never fail, in what way are they new every morning? And I think a lot of that is just for us, because for God, there's always a morning going on somewhere, right? But for us, our experience of it is every single day they are new. That they never go stale. There's something in the human experience where we think, okay, well, yeah, but that was yesterday. Yeah, that was the day before. And it feels stale. And we forget to have it renewed. And so it's not that just his loving kindness starts every morning new, and then we kind of start using up a piece of it, and it starts again new tomorrow morning, and we use up a chunk of it, and it starts again the day after that, and we use up a chunk of it. Or it's compassion. For him, it is eternal, consistent, and infinite. But our experience of it, we have a renewed experience of it. New every morning. God's loving kindness and compassion is new every morning. Following that example, we can renew how settled we are into our virtues every morning. That when I wake up, when I start off my day, what's interesting is a friend of mine, it's interesting, we have a kind of coach-client relationship, that both of us are each other's coaches and both of us are each other's clients. She coaches me in one aspect of the work that I'm doing. I coach her in another aspect of the things that she's doing. And so it's kind of an interesting dynamic over kind of who's in the lead at any given moment. But one of the things that she notes that she runs into a lot is people wake up with a very negative attitude. And the very negative attitude comes kind of with this whole idea of kind of all these steps of things of just life sucks. That you wake up and life itself is sucking the life out of you. And it's pervasive and it's everywhere and it's everything. And then there's another level of it where it's, well, I suck. That I'm the one, when I walk into a situation, I suck the life out of it. I walk into opportunity, I suck the success out of it. That basically I'm the bad guy. And that sure out there other people, maybe they succeed, but you know, everything's still terrible. Either life is terrible or I'm terrible. And then step 3 is when you get to the place where, well, I guess actually I'm okay. They're all the problem. I'm okay. But at least you feel pretty good about yourself. And then you get up to step 4 and you go like, okay, well, you know, I'm okay, and I guess they're okay too. And then somewhere around step 5, it's everything is awesome. And so I just had the everything is awesome Lego songs flash into my head. Anyway, yeah, okay, yes. So I wasn't the only one. I had to pause and like, okay, I need to keep on talking because I can't listen to the whole song in my head. But everything is awesome. And when you're in that kind of mindset, you can walk into even problem areas. You know, the existence of a problem is awesome because that means there's a solution. The existence of a fact of life is awesome to know it's a fact of life because now you can make adjustments. It's like gravity is a fact of life. What did we just complained about gravity? We would never invent planes. We would never invent balloons. All of these flying things, we didn't understand. Gravity is a fact of life. It's true. It's just what it is. How can we adapt to it? Then we create all of these amazing things. That this is a reality. This is a pervasive reality. There's nothing we can do about it. It's probably not going to change. How can we use that? And science is the process of finding out what it is, and then technology is the process of finding out, now that we know what is, how can we use that? It's awesome. And a lot of people, they wake up with this really, really negative mindset. And so this idea of God's loving kindness and compassion is new every morning. We can walk into our own virtues every morning. And since the ones I like to talk about a lot are love, joy, and peace, every morning we can settle into our love. Every morning we can settle into our joy. Every morning we can settle into our peace. And be settled into it every morning. Now we can use any milestone we want. We can settle into our virtues, our accomplishments, our best things about us every day, every week, every month. And since right now we're talking about a new year ready to begin, we can do it every year, where we really settle into ourselves. We settle into what God designed and engineered us to be able to be, and to move forward from here as that new creation. Stepping into the Lordship of Christ, one more step of love, one more step of joy, one more step of peace, and walk that forward right now, right here. And that there's this whole new self that we can work with. Ephesians 4:24. Put on the new self, which is the likeness of God, has been created in righteousness and holiness of the truth. New self, righteousness and truth. Now there's two forms of righteousness we're talking about here. One is doing the right things. And usually that's what we think of when we think about the idea of righteousness. But it's kind of an interesting translation of the word, because righteousness is doing things right morally, doing things right ethically, doing things right according to your vows, your obligations, your responsibilities. But it's also doing things right. So when you think about sin, the contrasting word to righteousness and sin. Sin means missing the mark. So if you're shooting at a bullseye, the bullseye is the bullseye. That first big circle around the bullseye was called sin 1. That was that Greek term for it. The second one was sin 2, the third one was sin 3, and then of course you could just flat out miss. And so the idea of sin is you miss the mark. So 2 plus 2 equals, well, 4 is the bullseye, 5 might be sin 1, 16 would be sin 3, CAT would mean you don't even know you're doing math, you think you're in your English class. And so when you're dealing with this idea of sin is just missing the mark, righteousness isn't just doing the morally correct thing, it's getting it right, getting it correct, accomplishing that thing which you sought to accomplish, and getting it done the correct way so that you get the correct outcome. And so your new self, putting on your new self, is the self that does things right, does things correctly, does things the way you already know they ought to be done. It's just for whatever reason you're not doing them. Now, I'm sure I'm not the only one that has had this experience of, at some point early in the morning, or sometimes the night before, you have those great aspirations for the coming day. Sometimes it happened the night before, of I'll finish all this tomorrow. All the things you didn't get done during the day. And you may even start off your day, okay, I've got a great day ahead of me, I've got these 80 things, I'm going to get them all done. And then somewhere around noon you realize, like, well, I've scrolled through a lot of Facebook posts, and I know what kind of potato chip I am, but I haven't gotten any of those 80 things done. But it's lunchtime, let me have lunch. And while you're having lunch, you take another quiz to find out what kind of cheese you are. And then you realize that you get halfway or even 2/3 the way through your day, and of those 80 things you aspire to do, it kind of looks like you're going to get maybe 10 of them done. And I think most of us have had at least days like that. Even the most accomplished superachiever has those days where stuff just isn't coming together. I mean, even on some of my productive days where I'm really invested in my work, like when I'm doing my writing, and I might have an aspiration to get 5 or 10 pages done, and I might spend the time it takes to do that, but I don't end up with one page I think I can use. I've got a few paragraphs, and I split them out into sentences, and maybe I come up with something that's kind of outline-ish, but for the amount of time I spent into it, I really should have had 10 pages done, and I've got nothing. Or I'm putting together a sermon, and I've invested half of a day, 4 hours into a sermon, and not only is the sermon not coming together, it's fighting me. I might get 10 hours into that process over a couple of days and realize this was just not going to work. Scrap the whole thing, start over, and do it brand new. And that happens. And when you have, especially when you've been on a roll for a while, a typical 1 hour message takes 4 to 20 hours to prepare. And sometimes when it's coming up to the 20 hours, because I should have given up on it at the 10-hour mark and done something different. And then at least I would have something at the 20-hour mark. And I've had weeks where I was just so committed, because I'm doing something like a study of James, and so I can't just say, well, I'm just going to skip James. I'm going to pop over to Philippians. I'm going to do a Philippians thing. It's like, no, I'm doing a James study. I'm in the next part of James. And 20 hours in, the message just is not wanting to come together. And you got to figure out what you're going to do about that, because you only have a certain number of hours in a week, and Sunday is coming every 7 days. And so sometimes you have days like that. But you can still put on your new self, renew yourself, get out of that stuck state, and put on that self that does things correctly, that righteous self. The one that's not just morally right and morally virtuous, ethically right, ethically virtuous, but also the one that just does things right. Does things when it's creative, does things the creative way. And you find a way to do that. Sometimes I'll take my computer with me and I'll go work in an interesting place. I'll head down to Balboa Park, and in a couple of the museums there's either a room if I need to plug in, or in one there's a patio that I can sit out on. And you can only get there if you're in the museum. And people who are paid money to be in the museum aren't going to just hang out in a room or in a patio deck. And so it's usually not very crowded, and since I have a pass, I can just go there and hang out and do my work in an interesting place. Or I'll head down to the Hotel Del and I'll work there, or head out to Paradise Point and I'll work there. I'll just kind of get out of the place I'm stuck and go to a different place, and then a different place get unstuck. So there's all kinds of ways that we can use to put on that new self. New self-righteousness and truth. The truth, facts, and interpretation of those facts. So the facts are the facts. And as we learn what the facts are, and like we talked about before, science is seeking of facts, and investigation is supposed to be seeking of facts. Historical legal evidence is supposed to be the seeking of facts. But then the challenge we often have is the interpretation of those facts. To have a good interpretation of those facts. To have an interpretation of the facts that is reasonable given the totality of the facts. Now I talk about you give people the benefit of the doubt, the totality of the facts allow. That means you don't come to a conclusion that requires you to ignore facts. And so you start from here and you begin moving forward as that righteous person, the person who can do things correctly, the person that can do correct action, righteous action, who knows what the facts are and knows a good interpretation of those facts. And be that person and move forward from here. Colossians 3:10 kind of builds on the new self idea too. Having put on the new self who is being renewed to a true knowledge according to the image of the one who created him. A new self to true knowledge. We're constantly being renewed. And as we learn better, we can do better. As we gain a new insight, we now have a new opportunity. Now, closely related to that, something I will often try to reinforce with people is this. Do not make long-term promises on short-term insights. So there was a couple that went to just a wonderful weekend seminar on marriage and relationship. And they had these terrific insights. And when they came back on Monday, they're telling everyone how terrific it was, and from now on. Well, there's a problem with from now on. They just learned this in the last 3 days. It may have felt transformational in these last 3 days because they were immersed in it. On Monday, they're still kind of riding the high of the new weekend insights. They don't know if the enthusiasm from those insights is going to hold. Because now they're back to the regular life. Now they're back to the regular day-to-day problems. Now they're back to the regular challenges. Now they're back to all of those things that trigger all of their ordinary emotional states. Now they're back in the environment that has all of the normal distractions. So here's my recommendation when you have new true knowledge. That new knowledge does create a new self, but that new self is still in an old context. And you just have this extra thing. So it needs focus. You can't just assume it's going to carry itself forward by itself like it might feel like the day after you just finished a 3-day workshop. You have to make a choice. And my recommendation, when you know better, you can do better today. After you make the today commitment, you go, hey, we did the day. Okay, now, it's not one day at a time when you're having a new insight. It's not like you're struggling with an addiction, although it might be. It's, now we commit to day 3. So if I have this powerful weekend seminar, I'm not going to send you off, okay, from now on you know what to do forever and ever. I'm going to say, now you know what to commit to do tomorrow. That if the seminar ran to the end of the day on Sunday, it's like, make the commitment on Monday you will act on this. If you get through Monday, then make the commitment to Wednesday. If you make it to Wednesday, now just make the commitment to the following Sunday. And if you make it to Sunday, make the commitment to the Sunday after that. And then the Sunday after that. And then the Sunday after that. After you have an entire month under your belt, now make a commitment to do it for one more month. Because if you show up on Monday and you think, from now on, that enthusiasm from the weekend isn't going to carry you through, but you can probably make a one-day commitment. And that should be easy because you still have the enthusiasm. Well, then you make a 2-day commitment. And at some point, if that commitment breaks down, then you start over with a 1-day commitment. So say if I learn all this great stuff and I'm good for 2 months, and I feel like I got it, I passed the 21-day mark, it's a new habit, we're just rolling along, and you get to that 2-month mark and go, oh, I guess I kind of forgot this whole month that I was supposed to be loving and joyful and peaceful. I guess I kind of forgot this whole month that I was supposed to employ my wife's love languages, and I was supposed to show her affection, and I was supposed to slow dance with her and take her on a date. And well, that's okay. Pick yourself up, dust yourself off. If you're a Christian, pray for forgiveness. Jesus is worthy and true to forgive you your sins if you will confess your sins. And then make a 1-day commitment again. Start over at a 1-day commitment. Okay, today is the day. Today I'm going to do it. Just today. If I make it through today, then I'm going to commit to 2 more days. Get to day 3. If I make it through day 3, then I'm going to commit again up to day 7. Make it 4 more days. And then I'm going to commit for 1 more week, and then 1 more week, and then 1 more week, and then another month. And anytime you have a relatively catastrophic failure, you just commit, okay, 1 more day again. And you go 1, 3, 7, and that's a 1 week mark, and then 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, 4 week, and that's a month mark, and then month by month. And so your new true knowledge, be that new self, but to commit to new actions in an old environment, to have this new self showing up with this new insight, but you also still have all of the other stuff from the old self still with you. Put on the new self. Focus on the new self. Put on the insight. Settle into the insight. And just make that small commitment. And then the not quite a small commitment. And then this kind of moderate commitment. Followed by another moderate and moderate and moderate. And then this kind of slightly bigger commitment. And then another one and another one. And then a big commitment. And then a bigger commitment. Until you get the habit established. And when you find that place that might be a stumbling block to you, start over at 1 day. So we're constantly being renewed. Every moment of every day is a new chance. You are 1 decision away from a completely transformed life. At any moment of any day. You are one decision away from changing the course of your life. Now, this was an interesting thing I was having recently, because I do time travel stuff and science fiction, fantasy. A lot of us have seen these shows. If you're Star Trek, they have the temporal anomalies all the time. And it's for story purposes, this whole thing of just going back in time and doing stuff. But one of the interesting things that always comes up in these is, what happens if you change the past? What happens if you do this one tiny thing and it completely transforms everything? What if you're back in time hunting dinosaurs and you step off of the path and you accidentally crush a moth that wasn't supposed to die? What happens if you travel back in time and you accidentally bump into your grandmother and it distracts her from that moment she was supposed to first lay eyes on your grandfather? And now they don't meet. All of these tiny little things in time travel stories that when something happens, the entire timeline is at stake. And it can destroy the entire timeline by creating this whole time quake that rips apart everything, or it can, shove everyone's side time. But often what we don't think about is, okay, well, I have traveled to this moment in time. Any given thing that I do is going to change my future. What if I do make a decision right here, right now, to chart my course a little bit differently? All the same things in all those time travel stories, if you go back in time and you change something and how it transforms everything in your future, you could do that on purpose and choose the future you're seeking to create. And there are tons of moments, and very often we have no idea which ones they are, where one word, the selection of vocabulary, the tone of voice, a gesture, is balanced on that precipice between one outcome and another. So if I'm moving forward and I have, say, an opportunity to ask a woman out on a date, and down one timeline she could become, the next Mrs. Conway, we could have this great, fabulous life together and do all these incredible things, but down another path, we just never go out. We're just someone that we know. And I could shift the timelines by which choice do I make. So when you think about that in terms of time travel, you kind of go, oh, yeah, and all those time travel shows little things make a difference. And we're always concerned about people mucking with the timeline. Well, I'm right here in this timeline. I time traveled here. Now, it took me 53 years to get here from 1965, because I'm kind of going the long way. And I seem to only be able to go forward. I can't ever seem to be able to go backwards. But that's okay. I've time traveled to here, and I've got some unknown amount of travel left to do. And the things that I do right here, right now, will affect that path. And because I have some particularly large decisions coming up and things I have to do in 2019, I am particularly cognizant of that. I might be moving to Las Vegas or St. Louis. Well, does that sound like that might have a pretty dramatic impact on my future? So if 2020 begins and I'm in St. Louis, is that likely to have a different impact than if 2020 begins and I'm in Las Vegas? If 2020 begins and I'm still in San Diego, all of these things will produce radically different outcomes. But so might a single conversation. So like I have this ongoing thing with my coach/client, and I'm same relationship back, where we're launching a new Discover Ohana program. Second time we've done this. And people are paying good money to be in this program. And we had a moment where our whole relationship almost ended. And it was funny because it was kind of this casual side conversation, because we talk about business and then we just kind of chit-chat a little bit. And the business stuff was done and we were chit-chatting a little bit, and it had kind of come up in her circles because she knows a lot of professional women. And one of the questions the women were talking about is, well, if you get married, do you take the man's name? Because in particular at our age, and so if you're younger in your teens and 20s, you might not think about this. But when you're in your 40s and your 50s, you're known in the community by your professional name. And so if you've always been known to everyone as Smith and suddenly you change your name to Jones, they may not know instantly who you are because you've always been Jane Smith. And they've worked with you as Jane Smith for 10 years. And so a lot of professional women don't want to change their name because their life revolves around the name, or they have children. This is also their children's last name. And so yes, it might be their ex-husband's last name too, but it's their children's name. And so we were just having a casual chat because the women have been talking about, like, well, do you change it? Do you not change it? Do you change it legally, but in business you still use your old name? And how do men feel about this? And of course, men as a block don't have one opinion about that. And she kind of wanted to know what my opinion was of it. And I was kind of talking about the idea that I'm really not concerned about last name changes. I am concerned about being on the same team, so it still have to be the Conway team. But if she changes her name or doesn't change her name, doesn't really concern me. So the only thing that is kind of a barrier to me is if she feels or doesn't feel she can make the vow to love, honor, and obey. At which point my coach stopped and said, what? Yeah, just the traditional vow of love, honor, and obey. And there's this pause and says, I want to claw your face off right now. And we had a discussion about that. Because in her observation and experience as a woman in her 50s, seeing marriages all around her, the men who want to be obeyed by the women are what she calls domineering pricks. Basically, they just want their way because it's their way. And I said, well, if you think that's what obedience would be to Scott Conway, that just tells me that you don't know me well enough to be able to make that vow, which obviously means you wouldn't know me well enough to marry me, which is also obviously true because we're friends. But until someone gets to the place where they know I can be trusted with her obedience, she should not marry me. And that turned into a whole conversation. And she got some new knowledge from me. And so we always get to start from here and move forward. Now, in her here, which almost ruined the whole thing talking about, a shift, is, now, could I have backed off of my statement? Yeah. It would have been the fastest way to not put that relationship at risk. To not put my business relationship, my business future, was pivoting through this moment and how I handled this moment. And the use of that one word triggered her and almost ended our entire relationship, which would have ended the Ohana Project, which would have ended my work with Rev Up Referrals, which would have ended the job offer, because now we're at a level where I've got a job offer in St. Louis. And all of that pivots through her. And I almost lost her in my life, even as a business colleague, over one word, obey. Now, we did, of course, resolve the conversation. If you're accustomed to my teaching, the whole captain and commander thing, and the responsibility of the commander to belay orders and countermand orders and even remove the captain from command, and that the commander has independent decision-making authority and independent judging the captain's performance authority and responsibility. And she understands how I'm supposed to show up as a leader. That someone's supposed to be able to show up under my leadership, and if they will just submit to my leadership voluntarily, it's supposed to make their life better, never worse. It's supposed to serve us, never just me. And as she developed that deeper understanding, she goes, oh, do you really do that? Because in her experience, no one ever does that. Leaders don't do that. Managers don't do that. Business owners don't do that. And I said, well, if I'm not doing it, then you shouldn't follow me. If that's not the way I'm leading, you don't obey. That the captain and commander is a metaphor, but this isn't the military. You're under no obligation The quality of my leadership should be such that submission is the only reasonable response to the quality of my leadership. And if it isn't, don't submit. To which you, okay, I'll have to think about that. But obviously we resolved it. She has taken to using the story of that conversation in her own business meetings to illustrate kind of what goes on in the dynamic of words. And she's asked like audiences like, okay, so we have a group here. Who thinks a wife should obey her husband? Gentlemen? Now, the men might want to raise their hand, but they're going, I'm not raising my hand for that. I see no way I don't get in trouble for that. It's like women, and like 2% of women might raise their hand. And it says, now what if your man showed up this way? And she describes the leadership the way I describe leadership. So now, ladies, how many of you would submit to that leadership? And almost all the hands go up. So, well, yeah, if he shows up that way. So, okay, men, how many of you men could be that kind of leader? And about half of the hands go up. The other half go, that's a big ask. So, new self to true knowledge, those moments, those turning point moments. And I had one, and if I lose her, I lose all of the business I've been doing that's based in St. Louis. I lose the job that is based in St. Louis. Basically, if I lose her, I lose St. Louis, which makes it easy because then I'm moving to Las Vegas. And to think it came through that one conversation. My entire future hinged on one conversation because I uttered one word. Had I just not said obey, if I said love, honor, cherish, instead of love, honor, obey, never would have had that pivot point that my entire future might have pivoted through. And we've talked about this recently because that obey conversation was, 9-10 months ago. Of all the things we've accomplished since then, the presentations I've made, the seminars I've taught, the webinars I've done, the things we have scheduled and planned, and to realize it's possible all of that could have just vanished with that one word. So new self to true knowledge, starting from here, moving forward, every moment, every day, every week, month, or year, is a chance for a start. I can decide right now, with the totality of the circumstances I have right now, to do something. The more we learn, the more we can start new things. 1 day, 3 days, 7, 14, 21, 28, month 2, month 3, month 6. The more we upgrade our plans, the more new starts we can make. Some stuff is hard to do. I joke sometimes with the kids saying that, well, I'm not going to quit smoking. And they go, because you never started. Well, I'm not going to quit drinking. Like, that's because you never started. I'm not going to stop using drugs either. That's because you never started. Well, that does make it easier. My father, on the other hand, was a great quitter. He quit smoking hundreds of times. Sometimes he successfully quit smoking for hours. He just said, that's it. I'm done smoking. And 3 hours later, he's having another cigarette. Sometimes he lasted days. Sometimes he lasted a couple of weeks. But he had to start over again at quitting smoking cigarettes again and again and again and again. His longest quit, that was a little over 2 years. He quit smoking after he got diagnosed with cancer. And that was enough to get him to quit smoking and drinking. And we had a perfectly blunt conversation. I said, Dad, you're supposed to quit smoking and drinking so you don't get cancer. Now you've already got it. It's a little late. Now hopefully it will help with the recovery. A little over 2 years later, it was making a really hard comeback, and the doctors basically told him, there's nothing more we can do. So he said, all right. So he started smoking and drinking again. He liked his beer, he liked his cigarettes. Well, now if it's not going to make a difference, I may as well. And so he died as a smoker and a drinker, not as the next smoker and the next drinker. But every moment, every day, every week, every month or year is a chance for a new start. And we can upgrade our plans and try again. We can have a new strategy as we approach this particular goal, a new strategy to approach this particular execution. That we don't keep trying the way that keeps not working for us. That you try to upgrade it somehow. You try to shift it in some way that you think has a higher probability of working than the one that you were trying before. And very often what we'll do is we'll just sit around and we'll say, well, I've tried it a million times. It's like, well, have you tried it a million different ways? So if you take 2 attempts at something in exactly the same way, are you likely to get the same results or different results? You're likely to get the same results. If you try something 10 different times, exactly the same way each of the 10 times, are you going to get the same results or different results? Likely the same results. But what if you try it 10 different times, 10 different ways? Every single time you try it, you upgrade your plan 1 step. Well, somewhere down that path, you're likely to find something that will work. We might get it right on the first try. It might take a dozen or more tries. Remember, the multimillionaires bankrupted themselves an average of 3 or 4 times on their way to success. Should I be any tiniest bit surprised if I effectively blow it big time on my way to any given goal 3 or 4 times, if the multimillionaires blew it 3 or 4 times on their way to being multimillionaires? I should not be surprised. But what if you go bankrupt and you pick up all the pieces, start again, and do exactly the same thing? Well, you can go bankrupt again. You go, well, that's okay. The average multimillionaire goes bankrupt 3 or 4 times on the way to success. Okay, yeah, but not exactly the same way for exactly the same reasons. If you go bankrupt time number 2, it shouldn't be for the same reason as time number 1. If you go bankrupt time number 3, it shouldn't be for the same reasons as 2 or 1. If you go bankrupt a 4th time, it shouldn't be for the same reasons as 1, 2, or 3. That you should learn the lesson and not make that mistake again. Upgrade your plan. And if you still fail, you should be failing for a different reason. And if you're failing for different reasons, you're moving forward. Moving forward is getting better. Better is good. Better is winning. I like winning. With some tenacity, we're bound to get it right. Matthew 7, 7 through 8. Ask and it shall be given to you. Seek and you shall find. Knock and it shall be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, and he who seeks finds. And to him who knocks it shall be opened. Ask, seek, and knock are imperfect imperatives. The imperfect imperative is just a command to do something and keep on doing something. Completely translated from the Greek language, Matthew 7, 7 through 8 should say, ask and keep on asking. Seek and keep on seeking. Knock and keep on knocking. For everyone who asks and keeps on asking shall eventually receive. He who seeks and keeps on seeking shall eventually find. And he who knocks and keeps on knocking shall eventually have it opened. Ask, seek, and knock require action. To ask, well, you might find answers. So if I'm asking kind of a business question, I'm going to go to my business coach. If I have a real estate question, I go to my real estate partner. If I have a question about legal trusts, I will go to my trust attorney. I'm not going to go to my kids' class and ask the 5, 6, and 7-year-olds legal questions, business questions, unless it pertains to like what would be fun for the kids to do in class that your friends would want to come do. You go ask where you might reasonably find answers. You don't go ask where you won't find answers. And so if you go ask where you expect you might find answers and you're going, not really sure about the answer, go ask somewhere else. Now these days with online research, we can go asking in 1,000 different places, which can kind of somewhat be overwhelming. But you start off with what type of resources am I looking for the type of thing that I want to do. And one of the easiest things to use as a filter is, who can I find that has been there, done that can give me some guidance? If you can find a been there, done that person that can give you some guidance, that's probably going to be some pretty decent guidance. You seek where you might find what you're looking for. There's the old joke of someone comes walking by and they see this drunk guy under the street light just searching around and says, what are you doing? Says, oh, I lost my keys. Like, oh, well, maybe I can help you find them. Where did you lose them? It's like, well, down over there. It's like, well, then why are you looking for it over here? Oh, the light's better here. Now, it's meant as a joke. But think about how often people go seeking for something someplace they're not going to find it. It's not here. You can't look for that here. You're not going to find it here. In a martial arts context, we had one guy come in and he wanted the really hardcore training. He thought people need to be tough, they need to be strong. Well, we don't do that kind of training here. But he wanted it, and he did the tryout class, and he's doing that to my people. If they weren't black belts, they could have gotten seriously hurt. And I told him, well, we are not the place for you. But he tried to enroll anyway. He said, no, what you want isn't here. And so I sent him elsewhere. Because what he looks for is in some other places. And so if that's what you're looking for, this is not the place to seek that. You will not find it here. And it is not invited for you to bring it here. If you want to seek that, you go find that somewhere else, and I can point you in a few directions. So ask where you might find answers, seek where you might find what you're looking for, and knock on the right door. So one of the things I'm hunting for is a job. Do you go hunting for a job but the place is not hiring? Of course not. If you're going to go hunting for a job and you're looking, and sometimes you have to put in a physical resume or drop off physically in person your applications and or your resume, do you show up when they're closed? I mean, so when you do stuff, you knock on the right door. Where will this answer probably be? If this door opens, will that be the right door? Is this an openable door? Is this even a door? Because if you see someone outside and they want to get in the dojo, but you see them across the street knocking on the wall across the street, you go, what are you doing? So I'm waiting for the dojo to open. Say, well, okay, it's on the other side of the street. So ask where you might find answers. Seek where you might find the thing you're looking for. Knock on the right door. You take action. And based on ask, seek, knock, you take ongoing action. And you keep taking action until you get a result. You modify your actions as you go. You see, okay, what's working, what's not working, and you modify as you go. Sometimes you keep repeating the same action because results are cumulative. Now think diet and exercise, which is semi-linear. So what if you do this like really hard killer workout? And you go, oh, okay, I did my killer workout and I'm not in shape. It's like, because you did one workout. Well, or since we have our recent gold medalist surfer here, and you go, I can't surf at a gold medal level. Darn it! It's like, you haven't taken the lesson yet. You need to at least take a lesson. Okay, so I go take a lesson. Well, you can't just take one lesson. You don't go take a lesson and join the Olympic team. That's not the way it works. And so some of those things, they're accumulative. There's kind of semi-linear where you just keep on repeating the thing. You keep on repeating the workout. You keep on repeating the class. And you just keep getting a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And you just keep on doing what you can do in essentially the same way. If you want to get rank in martial arts with me, you show up every Monday, every Wednesday, every Monday, every Wednesday, every Monday, and say, but I'm just doing this the same thing. I'm just showing up for class. Exactly, that's how it works. And over the course of enough years, you've accumulated enough knowledge. I'm just doing my 1 minute every day. Every day I'm just doing 1 minute. Sometimes I get totally carried away and I go 2 minutes. Sometimes on those insane days where I just get totally enthusiastic, I might spend almost 5 whole minutes. That's awesome. Just keep on doing that day in, day out, and guess what's going to happen? You're going to be a pretty awesome black belt. Do every single thing every single month. But I did that last month. Yeah, I'll do it again this month. Okay, I'll do it this month. Am I done? No, I'll do it again next month. It's linear. It's at least semi-linear. You just keep on repeating the same process, and it has a cumulative result. You can also think of something like job hunting, which is probabilistic. Where if I'm going to go hunting for a job and say in the particular field I might be job hunting in, my probable success rate is going to be 1 out of 10. And I go put in one resume at one law firm and they don't hire me. I'm just not destined to be a lawyer. That's it. I give up. And you go, it's 1 out of 10? Okay, well, I'll go up to 10. Well, if my odds are 1 out of 10, does that mean if I do 10, I'll make it? And the answer is no. If I do 10, if I commit to 10, that's a 50-50 shot. Because if it's a 1 out of 10 chance, that means there's a 1 out of 10 chance I get it on my first try. And then there's a 1 out of 10 chance, if I didn't get it on the first try, I get it on the second try. When you accumulate all of those, it's not like we'll have a 2 out of 10 chance or a 10 out of 10 chance. It's the 1 out of 10s add up to a 50-50 shot at 10. If I go to 20, I have a 75% shot. And that's the way that math works. If I put in 30 resumes and I seek jobs at 30 places and a 1 out of 10 shot, that means I have about an 87.5% chance of success on 30 applications, 30 resumes, on a 1 out of 10 chance. And so when you look at things like that, you go, oh, I didn't know that's the way that worked. And so if I want a 100% chance, you know how you get a 100% chance? Is you keep on going until you get it. Whether that's 10, 20, 50, 100, 1,000. You keep on going until you get it. And at some point you can decide if the cost is worth it. Sometimes you keep upgrading your plans until you find the one that works. Like for developing a new habit. If you're trying to start something you just haven't seemed to be able to start. Well, upgrade your plan and how you're going to start it. Look for a different way that will be more effective for you until you find one that's effective enough for you to get the thing. Or seeking a particular goal. If you keep pursuing a particular goal and it just keeps eluding you, then you need to do something different. You need to adjust your approach. And in all of this, though, you count the cost. Because you might get to a place of such diminishing returns or realize the magnitude of the upgrade it takes isn't worth the price it's going to take. So I have one of my latest prospective clients for coaching is part of a $25,000 mastermind. That means he paid $25,000 to get access to be a member of this group of 10 people for 1 year. Now, what if I look at the program that he's in and go, oh my gosh, that is so good. I could make 10 grand if I was a member of that group. Well, if I count the cost, well, that wouldn't make any sense. Now, if I look at that group and go, oh, if I can learn all of that stuff that they're doing in the group, I could make $250,000. Now, would that be worth joining the group for me? Yeah. Now, what if I don't have 25 grand to join the group? It doesn't matter how good it would be to me because I can't get in the group because I can't afford to buy my way into the group. So count the cost. Luke 14:28. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you sit down first and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? So if I find out that I have 10 grand and the thing's going to cost 25, do I join? I don't have the money, can't join. If I have that 10 grand and I need to buy a car, do I go looking at $30,000 cars or do I go looking at $10,000 cars? You go look at what you can afford. You count what will it cost and can I pay that price? Everything has a price. Sometimes it's a low price. Sometimes it's a high price. And the prize might not be worth the price. So my prize for being a member of that $25,000 group is I could make an extra $10,000. That prize is not worth the price. $10,000 is not worth spending $25,000 to get. Now, if I could make $250,000, okay, that would be worth it. So part of the cost is could you afford to pay the cost anyway? If you can't pay the price, you can't do the thing. But if you can, is the prize worth it? The prize may not be worth the price. This is a judgment call. Prizes have value, sometimes low value, sometimes high value. Sometimes the prize is worth the price, sometimes not. And you have to think about that. Now here gets to be part of the challenge. The price may be higher than you think. Luke 14:29 continues, "For if you lay a foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule you." Now it might be that no one ridicules us but us. But when you're looking at a project, do you just start and whatever it costs, it costs? Because you're going to run out of resources, right? And so you count the costs, you consider the value of the prize, and as you get into it, you may find that the necessary upgrades to get to where it is you want to go are beyond you. And you have to decide. So for instance, the head instructors of the dojo are here. What if I told them, it's like, well, you could potentially achieve Renshi status before I leave, but it's going to be 40 hours a week of training here. And I go like, well, the outcome might be pretty cool, but that is an awfully high price to pay, because think about what that means you can't do. And especially when there's no income involved. Now, might someone decide like, oh, that prize is totally worth it? If you have nothing else going on, maybe. What if someone's going to have to drop out of college to pursue that? Like, I wouldn't recommend dropping out of college to pursue something like that. What if someone's going to have to quit their job and lose their income to pursue something like that? I wouldn't recommend that either. And so the costs vary from person to person. Sometimes it's an opportunity cost. Sometimes it's a financial cost. Sometimes it's a loss of income cost. Sometimes it's going to cost you money cost. So what if I told them, well, I will do this for you, but it's going to cost you $40,000? Most people would quite readily go, like, I'm not spending $40,000 on a year of martial arts training. I'm just no, not doing it. And so you look at what is the actual price. And sometimes it may be higher than you think. Or there's been some dojos, using another dojo example, where the monthly fees are pretty low. And people go to the place because the monthly fees are low. But what they don't realize then is the testing fees are very high. And so you're training for, $60 a month. But then every other month there is this belt test. And you find out that the belt tests are another $60. You go, oh, I didn't know that. So every 2 months I have a belt test. Yeah, and then sometimes the belts are just stripes on your belt, but you have to test every 2 months. You go, oh, so that $60 a month is actually $90 a month. Well, that's still a pretty decent deal. So yeah, and there's also a belting fee, and the belting fee is $20. And you're like, well, wait a minute. But even if you're just getting the tape on the belt, yeah, the belting fee is $20 for you to receive your rank. Yeah, oh, so that's another $10. So now we're up to $100. So that's the same as that other dojo. Okay. And then every time you get a new actual belt, the belt fee for the actual new belt is $100. It's like, well, how often do those come up? So we do that every 6 months. Like, okay, so then I have another $100 every 6 months. Yeah, and then when your belt changes, you also have to get a new uniform, because we do the stripes on the uniform that match the belt. And you always need 2 jackets, and the jackets are $60 a piece. And someone goes, no, wait a minute. By the time you're done, you realize that you're spending $150 a month for that $60 a month thing. And the price ends up being much higher than they think. And then something else that someone found out as they went is, like using our belt system, you go about halfway to black belt is purple belt. And what they found is the $60 deal only applied halfway. After that, the price doubled to $120 a month. And then what they also didn't know is the black belt testing fee was $1,000. Well, by then you're an advanced brown belt. Do you quit? Or do you want that belt? Well, by then usually you want that belt. And then you begin to realize, that cheaper deal cost way more than we expected. That's why my general policy in my dojo has always been just everything's included pricing, so you know every month what you're paying. And if you want to, you're going to spend more money, it's because you're buying something else. But the minimum mandatories is going to be the same every month, and that's kind of my policy. And so the price may be higher than you think, sometimes because you underestimated it, sometimes because you get into it and you find out there's added costs you didn't know about. Sometimes those costs are imposed by somebody else. Sometimes it's just the price of doing things on your own. That you kind of thought you could kind of get into this workout program and this diet program and you're going to like develop the physique you wanted to develop, and you get into it and you realize I'm really not getting the results I thought I would get. I kind of was hoping I was going to lose like 10 pounds in this program, and I've lost 2. And that's been a lot of sweat. I had a friend of mine who did that, and at the 30-day mark she lost 2 pounds. And so I am working hard for 2 pounds. And in her case, she just said, okay, you know what I think it might be is I'm just not pushing that very last edge. That kind of like, you're doing 10 reps, and 10 reps is the program, and she thought, like, because I could probably crank out a couple of more reps and before, like, my muscles just can't do anymore. And that's all she did. She just said, I'm not going to stop at 10. I'm going to go to 10 first, and then I'm going to push to failure. And if I can make it another 10, then that means my weight is too light and I need to upgrade my weight. And then all of a sudden, it shifted from 2 pounds in a month to 2 pounds a week. And so, okay, that's the outcome that I wanted. And for her, it just took about a 20% upgrade in what she was doing to quadruple her outcome. So, well, that's a deal. Plus 20% on the price, and not even on the total cost, because she's making the same number of trips to the gym. She's doing a workout that's just a little bit longer. But most of her time involvement that shifted was just workout time. The amount of time it took to get ready to go home and get showered and cleaned up and into her regular clothes, that didn't change. And so her effort went up 20% at the gym, but her total time commitment only went up a tiny little bit. Her financial commitment didn't have to change at all. She just had to crank out a couple of more reps. And she quadrupled her result. So sometimes when you're counting the costs and you're checking your results, it can be that simple. I just need to push it a little bit more. I just need a little bit more activity, a little bit more effort, that one more step or 2 more steps. And we can always start anew. We start from right here, right now, in the situation as it is now. So in my case, if I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, I'd like to be 200 pounds. And and I pray for forgiveness for not working out more, and I pray for forgiveness for enjoying all of the holiday treats, and I really want to get down to 2. Well, does that wipe out the last 20 pounds? No, I'm still at 220. And I have to start from right here, right now. And I can start in the situation as it is now. I don't get to start off at 210 and try to lose 10 pounds. I get to start off at 220 and lose 20 pounds. If I'm 230, I get to start with 230 and lose 30 pounds. If I made it all the way to 250, I'd start at 250 and have to lose 50 pounds. And I've been at not quite 240 before. My mother remarked recently, it's like, oh, it looks like you've lost weight. And then she pats my tummy, keep going. Because she kind of wants to see me more around 200 pounds too. And losing 10 pounds is good, but I got 30. And the reason my mother's concerned is heart disease is showing up in the elder generation. And she knows that heart disease is the scariest thing for us. Because if I get cancer, I have time to put my affairs in order. If I have heart disease, 30% of the time the first symptom is you just die of your first heart attack. And she doesn't want to be talking to me in the morning on Tuesday and then get a phone call Tuesday night because someone found my body. She wants to know that, she talks to me Tuesday morning, she's going to get to talk to me on Wednesday morning too. So we can always start anew, but we start from where we are. The situation as it is now, complete with all of the consequences of any previous actions, including the consequences of causes previously set in motion, where those consequences have not yet arrived. And so as I'm coming into the end of the year, I've got some fairly significant financial consequences because of people who didn't do their part. And it's interesting because Virginia Muskis, who's my business coach, is the only coach I've had so far that actually produced all of the results she said she could produce. Now, I sincerely believe that most of the people I've worked with in the past, aspirationally, they really meant to. Character-wise, they were committed. They just couldn't do it. But they weren't honest about the fact that they didn't know for sure. They talked about things in terms of certainty. And in one case, I'm going to have to go actually sit down and have a business lunch or dinner with someone, and probably a dinner would be better so it can be more open-ended. Because I need to find out, okay, how are you using vocabulary? When you say someone's on your team, do you mean that you all work together, or do you just mean that it's someone you refer to? Because if all you're doing is I give you one of my clients as a referral and you're not working with them, you just hand them off to someone else, okay, that's not cool with me. I need to know that. Because then I'm not referring them to you, I'm referring them to whoever you're handing them off to, in which case I need to know that guy. And I need to know the work that he does. And so all of these things, I need to find out how the vocabulary is being used. And because of some of these dynamics that are going on behind the veil presented to me, I ended up with 3 out of 4 deals fell apart because of other people's actions, which has left me in a bit of a bind. And so when you're dealing with stuff like that, okay, that's the consequence of causes set in motion, which is now toppling dominoes in my life. And so I can decide, new year, new me, starting this new thing. But I still have this row of toppling dominoes barreling its way at me. And I can do the new me, new behavior, new goals, new processes, new activity, but it doesn't stop those dominoes. And so this whole idea that we can start anew, it's the totality of the circumstances as they exist now, which also includes whatever positive or negative momentum is already in place. Also includes pending consequences, which can be good or it can be bad. Because I've got another deal going on that could be worth 20 grand. But that's a pending consequence, and it's a could be. And it could be as early as January. It could be as late as April. It could be not at all. If it goes past April, it's probably turning into a not at all. But that one's already in motion. All of the pieces have been put in motion. That first domino has been pushed over. The dominoes are toppling a lot slower than we wanted. And if they stop toppling, then the $20,000 is gone. Just gone. And so that's the kind of things that you have to have when you start something new, is consequences are already in motion. Causes have already been put into effect. And when the cause is set in motion, the effects from those causes are on the way. When cause and effect is fast, you can deal with the effect and handle that now. When the cause is set in motion and the effect is down the road and even probabilistic, you have to deal with that and know that that's there, so you don't get blindsided by it. But right here, right now, we have a choice. So we can be renewed. We may learn that who we are is not quite up to what we wish to start or what we wish to stop. Sometimes you got stuff going on, you want to quit. You know you need to. But who you are right now, if you do it by yourself, is not up to the task. That you're going to need help. You might just need an accountability partner. That's just someone who has the right to ask you questions. An enormously powerful accountability partner can be your own children. I had a dad who was trying to stop smoking. He decided his accountability partner was going to be his 5-year-old daughter. Where the 5-year-old daughter, anytime she wanted to, could say, "Daddy, are you still smoking?" And it says, just knowing that my 5-year-old little girl is going to come ask me that question, and I don't want to disappoint my little girl. And one of them, it started off because they were watching television, and the little girl crawled up on the chair, and it was a recliner, so it was laying down on her chest, and says, "Daddy, can you quit smoking?" And he says, "Well, why would you ask that?" He says, "Because I want you to be alive to walk me down the aisle." So apparently they'd seen some weddings or something on television with the fathers walking their daughter down the aisle. And this little girl had this idea that, well, someday I want that. And in these days, with the first marriages happening in the middle to late 20s and even early 30s, well, that dad needs to be around for 20 or 25 years. And he said, that just breaks your heart. And that little girl was his accountability partner. And so that's all the accountability partner needs to do, is just be able to ask you the question that you pre-agree to answer honestly. You might need a spotter. All a spotter is someone who has the strength to help you out when you're weak. The person who has the strength to help you just push it a little bit harder. Think about that in lifting weights. That if I'm bench pressing and I can comfortably do 6 reps, but then I'm kind of at the edge there, the spotter is there so that I can go for 7 and maybe go for 8. And then if I'm failing, the spotter can lift the weight up and put it on the rack for me. So sometimes you need someone who's strong enough to give you their strength when you need more strength. Sometimes you need a mentor. You need someone who's been there, done that, can walk you through it. They're ahead of you on the path, and they can practically just do it for you. Sometimes you need a professional to help you out with something. So we may need to learn more. We may need to become more. We may need to let go of the past. We may need to embrace the present or become a higher and better self. Hand in hand with Christ, we can do that. But the big thing to remember is we may need help. How much help do you need, and where is that help? We can be wisely tenacious. We make choices. We keep renewing those choices. We learn more. We get better. We upgrade our plans. We keep moving forward. We count the cost and choose. The cost can be anything. It can be as obvious as money and time. Like that $25,000 mastermind that I'm not joining. It can be time. How much time will it take you to get to the result? And how many hours do you have to invest in the work? It can be relationships, where sometimes part of the cost is you have certain relationships that you need to end. Sometimes you have certain relationships you need to invest in to move forward. And one of the challenges, especially with highly goal-oriented people, is with people, fast is slow and slow is fast. You can't just schedule 15 minutes for a breakup and expect that you're going to deal effectively with the person, because that's not going to close it off very well. And especially if you're like me, where you're going to really sincerely, honestly be friends, you can have issues lingering for years that way. And sometimes the fastest way to get it done is just make it open-ended and invest an hour or 2 or 4 or 8. Whatever it takes to get all the way through something. And so sometimes the cost and the choice can be over relationships. That you need to invest in this relationship. Or some of the relationships you need to get out of this relationship. It's not healthy for you. It can be emotional challenges. For some people, having to really deal with your emotions. Sometimes having to deal with some connection to the past. And it's pretty obvious that if you've had some traumatic experience in the past and you're living in reaction to that experience and other people around you are paying the price for it, that's pretty obvious. Okay, you got something you need to deal with, because you're making other people pay a price because of your unwillingness to deal with the thing. But here's where it gets even trickier sometimes. Sometimes the thing you need to let go is a good thing. And so one of the challenges can be, what if, and here's a classic one, what if I grew up and I just love my mother's cooking? And I have my wife's cooking, and my mother is just a better cook than my wife. Might have nothing to do with 30 years of extra experience my mom has. But so I might just need to have to let go of that, and certainly not talk about it, and not go, oh honey, this is really, really good. You're getting almost as good as mom. A man told his wife after she spent 3 days getting mom's recipe and making something from scratch. And says, oh wow, this is really good, almost as good as mom's. He didn't get another pumpkin pie made from scratch for 18 years. Sometimes you just need to let go even of the good thing if you can't resist the urge to compare. So it can be the cost of letting go of good things or bad things. Here's a big one. It can be the cost of letting go of every excuse we ever made. How hard can that one be? Counting the cost of making a choice can be the cost of letting go of every excuse we ever made and accepting total responsibility for ourselves and stop blaming. Every time you blame, you're making a claim to powerlessness. So if I blame the weather, I'm claiming I am powerless to change the weather. Is that true? Yeah, that's true. Now, if I'm saying that there's a thing I can't do because of the weather, was there a workaround that I could have done? And if that answer is yes, then blaming the weather is making a claim to powerlessness when I have power. So you always have to be careful about where you place blame, because the blame you place is a claim to powerlessness. And if you absolve yourself of all responsibility because you place total blame on others and claim you don't have the power it takes to have instituted a solution, then you're not accepting responsibility, much less total responsibility for ourselves. An example I'll use even with the kids: if I don't show up Sunday morning to teach because the planes got grounded in Chicago and no flights were leaving the Chicago airport yesterday, how many people go, yeah, that you're pretty powerless to be here on Sunday morning or Saturday night, all your flights from Chicago got canceled? That's 2,000 miles. But what if I say, well, the reason I wasn't here on Sunday morning is because all the flights got canceled out of Los Angeles? And you're going, wait. So your 6 p.m. flight got canceled out of Los Angeles, and at 9 in the morning on Sunday, you couldn't make it to San Diego in 15 hours from Las Vegas or from Los Angeles? In 15 hours, you could almost walk here from LAX. And so you kind of expect me to solve that problem, right? It's, but the planes, like, yeah, the planes, and there's trains and car rentals and buses. You had so many ways you could have done that and made it down here in maybe 3 or 4 hours, maybe not in a quick, puddle jumper flight. You had tons of ways to do that. But you were blaming the planes. Did you try to rent a car? Did you try to catch a bus? How many alternatives did you try? What if the planes were leaving out of John Wayne Airport in Orange County and that they were offering free shuttles down there? Yeah, but my plane got canceled. But they were willing to put you on another flight out of another airport. LAX was shut down. John Wayne wasn't shut down. You could have still gone. Or they offered free bus service. And, well, we can't fly the plane, but we have buses. Yeah, but my planes. You even had a bus for free. So accepting total responsibility for ourselves means no matter why this situation exists, how I handle the situation is my responsibility. Maybe there's nothing I can do. Maybe I'm in Chicago at 6 o'clock on Saturday night, and I really don't have a way to get to San Diego because an airline flight is really kind of the only path to be here in time from Chicago. But maybe I'm in LA, and I've got half a dozen alternatives. Well, then use one of them. Whatever the cost, we count it, and we make a principled choice. What if I could get out of Chicago, but I would have to hire a private jet at the cost of $8,000? And I go, as much as I would like to be there Sunday morning, I don't want to be there $8,000 worth. I'm just going to have to wait until my $200 flight out of Chicago can get me there Sunday, and just make a call and have someone else preach for me Sunday morning. Revelation 21:5a. And he who sits on the throne said, behold, I am making all things new. Making all things new. Making. The new is ongoing. This is a new moment made for us. Choose well. Right here, right now, is a moment we've never been to before. No matter the course of our lives leading up to here, At any given moment of any given day, we are one decision away from transforming our future. Now for me, this is 2018 leading into 2019. This is possibly, maybe even probably, my last New Year sermon. At least that I'll be preaching here. That if I have ministry opportunities where I land, there may be more, but they won't be from here. I've got a lot of things going on in 2019 and a lot of outcomes. I have no idea what I'm doing. I know I've got Ozzy Osbourne tickets for July. I know that I'm supposed to probably still be in Las Vegas also in July. I know I've got Comic-Con. I will probably have some nice friendly dates and have with some women that are good company for me. But I really don't know a lot of the big things coming up this year. I don't even know yet for sure if I'm going to St. Louis or Las Vegas, or even the remote possibility I might be staying here. While I'm here, I know I have head instructors to coach before I leave, while I'm still physically present. I have a potential pastor to train while I'm still here. I have close-out experiences, kind of high-point experiences I want to do with some of the handful of special people in my life that I want to do something special with before I go, before I'm not here anymore for that. I've got some things I would like to do. I don't know if I will get to them. I have some things queued up that could possibly make 2019 one of the 4 most lucrative years I've ever had, but also based upon history of other people performing the things that they say they're going to do. There's also a reasonable possibility it could also be, a near bankrupting year. I don't know where I'm going to store my stuff. I haven't even decided what stuff I'm going to take with me, because some of that will depend. Like, well, am I going to Las Vegas? That's one set of stuff. Am I going to St. Louis? That's a different set of stuff. If I'm going to Las Vegas, I can make round trips from here to Las Vegas and take my own stuff that I want to take. But if I'm going to go to St. Louis, well, I'm probably not going to be interested in making 5 or 10 round trips from here to St. Louis, just taking more stuff each time. Even a simple thing, I've got a comic book collection with like 47 long boxes of comics. What am I going to do with that? If I get a big U-Haul, I could probably fit all of it in there if I want to drive it myself. But and so, all of these things that I don't know. I have some things that are certain. I have people to invest in. I have relationships to invest in. I have trainings to do. But then I'm gone. To where? I don't know. To do what? I'm not sure yet. Exploring opportunities. Things I would like to do while I'm still on the West Coast. If I move to Las Vegas, there's no hurry because I can still do it from there. But I haven't been to Yellowstone since I was a kid. Haven't seen Mount Rushmore since I was a kid. Haven't been to Yosemite or the Sequoias or the Redwoods since I was a kid. Kind of like to see that. Never seen Hearst Castle. We kind of like to see that while I still live in California. I've only lived in California for half a century. But sometimes when you feel like you have all the time in the world, it's easy to just not get around to stuff. But now I'm kind of going, it's like, this could be my last year. What do I want to do in California while I'm still a Californian? Are there some high point experiences I want to have with certain people? For myself, I've been to Universal Studios and Knott's Berry Farm and Disneyland and California Adventure, and I've had some of those kind of solo trips. But do I want to go experience that with certain people? Do I want to make like a group trip to Disneyland before I go? I don't know. I mean, that's how chaotic 2019 is. I could be scraping by month trying to make it. By April, I could be quite comfortable and be 100% out of debt and have some extra money in the bank and a new car. I mean, who knows? I've got this whole range. But things have become new. I get to make some decisions. I get to make some decisions for myself. I get to make some decisions for my body. I get to make some decisions for my mind. I get to decide what books am I going to read, what programs am I going to listen to, what seminars am I going to attend, what am I going to teach and where am I going to teach it, who am I going to coach and how much am I willing to invest in them. What do I expect to see in them in order for me to continue to invest in them? What will kind of be the things that kind of unlock additional opportunities? What will be the things that will close off opportunities that exist? And all of these things I have to kind of decide. Well, right now as I record this, it is December 30th, 2018. I have until midnight tomorrow to decide how I am starting the day. And as I have done every year since 1989 turned into 1990, I will be praying in the year as midnight ticks away. And sorting out between now and then much of what I will be praying for. I have an anticipation that the probability is high this will be one of my longer New Year's Eve prayers. Because there's a lot of stuff going on. And because I'll walk through adoration first, I'll walk through confession second, I'll walk through thanksgiving third, and this year that's a lot to be thankful for. And I walk through supplication fourth, but I always do supplication for other people before I get to myself. And when I know I have a lot of things to pray for myself, one of my basic rules is I make sure I am praying more for other people than I am praying for myself. And I usually try to make it a policy to pray more in gratitude than I pray for supplication. So if I feel like, for instance, I have an hour of stuff to pray for myself, that means I need to spend an hour praying supplication for other people before I get to my hour praying for myself, which then means 2 hours of supplication, which then means 2 hours of thanksgiving. That would end up being 4 hours of prayer time after doing adoration and confession. I'll probably not be doing 4 hours of prayer time. I'm guessing the stuff I need to pray through for myself might be half an hour. That means half an hour praying for other people. That means an hour of thanksgiving. 2.5 hours of prayer time is a reasonable prayer time considering what I have to pray for this new year. And so that's mine. What will yours be? This whole new start, we don't have to wait for New Year's. We typically do it culturally at the New Year's. But you could do it at 11:19 on a Sunday morning, on any given Sunday. You could do it at any given moment of any given day. It doesn't have to be the New Year, but the New Year is a time, it's most often at the height of our consciousness. It's a good time to reflect on that. But know that there's nothing special about a new year other than the way we define our calendar. You don't have to wait for a new year. And if you get to January 17th and you've already blown your New Year's resolutions, that's okay. You can make some January 17th resolutions and commit to doing it to the 18th. And then on the 18th, commit to doing it to the 20th. And on the 20th, commit to doing it to the 25th. And then if on the 25th you've blown it, that's okay. You can make some January 25th resolutions and commit to doing it on the 26th. And then commit to doing it up to the 28th again. There's nothing special about the new year that says this is the only time you're allowed. There's also nothing special about the new year that says that this is when you have to. You can decide, you know what? I don't really know. And I'm not going to kind of rush it to figure out the next day. Let me think about this. And maybe in a week or two, I'll make some decisions. That's okay too. Things have become new. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. Put on the new self, which in the likeness of God has been created in righteousness and holiness of truth. Having put on the new self, who is being renewed to a true knowledge according to the image of the one who created him. Ask and it shall be given to you. Seek and you shall find. Knock and it shall be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives. And he who seeks finds, and to him who knocks it shall be opened. And he who sits on the throne said, Behold, I am making all things new.